welcome to this week's review of My Hero Academia Vigilantes, the anime series, and this week we're reviewing the episode titled This Is a Hero, and we'll kick off this review, as we always do with these reviews, by talking about the positives and the headline positives, the big things we're discussing over the course of this review. I like the action in this episode. It was very well animated, it bridged the two very different chapters in the manga very well, and I enjoyed the confrontation that we got with number 6 towards the end of this episode. This is a hero. 2 exclamation marks. Well, Google is going to absolutely hate this video because it seems to think that double exclamation marks in anything is a sign of spam, so I suppose this is all the more reason to like and subscribe and do all that stuff. Thank you all for people that have done that from the previous one. With that said, let us get to the review itself and say that shock horror, I like the action in this episode. This is usually an opening point of praise from me, and once again is very well deserved because we get 2 very different action sequences in this episode. The first one is the one that we get with All Might showing us exactly the just sheer overpowered brilliance of that character when he was, well, not in his prime, but certainly in a better state than we see him towards the start of the main series. It is truly amazing to see him just be able to do all of that stuff in such a short period of time and defeat the odds of that 200 strong exploding bat monster thing. That whole sequence where the detective begs, pleads for him to save his younger sister, and just to see All Might fly in and just do everything needed for that whole affair is brilliant. It's just an amazing thing to see. I loved seeing this in the manga and now seeing it in an animated form. It really does underline just what a different entity that All Might was. He's like a force of nature. He flies in, he uses the air from one of his punches to clear a landing spot for the sky egg. He clears out all the animals and all the little lost critters that were in the park at the time, and then he flattens the ground evenly and then grabs it and lowers the sky egg to the ground without a single thing, person or item out of place. Just done with just such speed and skill that, wow. Like, over the past couple of weeks or so, I've been talking about how one of the things I really do miss seeing in superhero fiction is just seeing superheroes save people. Like, it feels like, and not to go over well-trodden ground at this point, it feels like a lot of superhero fiction these days is just fixated on fights, just fixated on combat, just fixated on 2 characters with similar power sets fighting off against each other, or maybe they have different ones, and that's slightly more interesting, but it's all combat, and sometimes even explorations into the dark realities of these characters. Whoa! What if Joker was real, man? What if he was grounded and stuff? And what if Superman was an arsehole? Ooh, we've never done anything like that before. And all the stuff about superheroes saving people, just saving them from a burning building, saving them from a car crash, or anything like that just gets thrown to one side. And this week we get it in the biggest, wildest, craziest way possible, and I love it. This is the kind of stuff that I wish that you'd see Superman doing in movies, rather than going around looking brooding and miserable. I will grant you I've not seen the most recent movie, so maybe he does more like this kind of stuff in it. I don't know, but I'll certainly say for the hero now, it is just, the spectacle of it is what really sold it for me. This is, I don't want to say this is my favourite action sequence of the episode, because that's a bit of a debate, but I just love, like I say, seeing stuff like this. It is an action sequence which I wish that we'd see more, particularly from the main series, but hey, the main series at this point is wrapped up, so we can't really complain about that. This is one of a series of action sequences. Yes, I said there's 2. Technically, I think it's fairer to say there's 3, because then you do have the bit with the giant mutated exploding monster thing throwing out all 200 of those bat things, and and number 6, as we now know him, going about, oh, there's no way that you can possibly defeat all of these. Even if they all band together, they can only possibly defeat 100 of them. That will leave 100 of them left to blow up and ruin things and make everyone feel bad and sad, and baby, it's going to be a great evil time for evildoers. And All Might just steps up and blows them all up with very minimal damage to anything, because he is just on such a different level. And I suppose that because of the nature of this series, of Vigilantes, that the power levels are so comparatively... Well, even by main series standards, they're so relatively low that when someone like All Might comes along, just the sheer golfing power becomes even bigger. I love this. I genuinely love that whole series of events, and we do, of course, get the second action sequence later on, which I think is better animated and is more of what you come to expect from a series like this, but nonetheless, they are both very well animated. The second one I do love because it does have the almost Batman quality of it, as you know, as I've mentioned in the past, that Knuckle Duster is like Batman without the subtlety. But even then, he still has this understanding, this clear understanding of his quirk and his abilities that he can then use that on number 6. That whole thing where he has the speaker set up that just starts playing the message to number 6, and he's, to everyone else, he's running so fast, no one will be able to understand it, but it's running at a speed that only number 6 can hear, and the time taken to concentrate on it, end to end, is enough that it times out the quirk. That is genius. That is just brilliant. Like, one of the things I do love about My Hero Academia main series in this is that all the quirks, well, almost all the quirks, have some kind of physical downside to them. I will admit that when it comes to the main series, particularly towards the tail end of it, it felt as though the weaknesses factored into it far less, and it started to shift more into shonen anime punchy bullshit. But even then, with that said, you still got this sense of there are limits to these quirks and these abilities. And here we're seeing that being brought into it and it being a factor in the fight itself. And as such, it just creates this sensation where even though Knuckle Duster can't really keep pace with number 6 at this particular moment, he understands the power and the quirk enough that it's able to give him an edge. And it is something that... Again, I wish that we saw more of this kind of thing in the main series. But getting in the here and now is fine because it's well executed. It is showing that there is more dynamism to this fight. That it isn't just a case of this character has a super overpowered superpower, therefore they're going to win it. There's still an opportunity by the other guy by using their wit and their guile to do that. I love that. I love that aspect of it, and the whole sequence of events that lead into that big fight. The moment when when Knuckle Duster blows up the ground, blows up the floor that they're standing on, and just falls all the way down. And just the speed and the pacing and how it's all put together just creates this great frenetic energy about it. And then comes the brutality of it with Knuckle Duster just shotgunning this guy left, right and centre, then going to just beat the hell out of him with the butt end of his shotgun. There's a part of me that does wish it got a little bit more bloody and a little bit more brutal, but I understand that given that this is a TV programme, and even if this is put on like the equivalent of the after watershed hours in Japan, there's certain things you simply cannot do on television. So to just see it in this, and just to see just the violence of it, just the brutality of it, just the Knuckle Duster has to stop this guy one way or the other, and he's going to stop him, is great. I just love how all that washed out, and you just get that contrast between the worlds, between All Might and Knuckle Duster. With All Might, it's all about show, and it's all about minimising the damage, and it's all about making sure that the villain, whomever it is brought in one piece so they can stand trial. He does it, and he gets the adoration, and he gets the kudos, and he gets everyone cheering him on. Characters like Knuckle Duster don't do that. They operate in the shadows, and they are very brutal, and in the case of Knuckle Duster, he's willing to do things that heroes would not. He's willing to blow up buildings, destroy God knows how much property to try and win the day, to try and get the victory that he needs. He's willing to use brutal and unsubtle and bloody violent techniques to try and get the end that he needs. And I just love getting that contrast in this episode. Now, this is an episode which ultimately is taking... Well, they're not 2 chapters, it's like 4 chapters being combined together. There's a definitely clear divide between the stuff that happened in the immediate aftermath with the Sky Egg and what we're getting with Knuckle Duster and number 6. And I think that he managed to bridge that gap fairly well. One of the things I will say, like I just mentioned, is it does help to create this greater contrast between the realities of a hero like All Might and all that that entails with someone that is a vigilante like Knuckle Duster, and having these two very different worlds and showing them in the same episode, I think works well and helps to show and illustrate the juxtaposition between these two worlds very well. You've also got the fact of the matter that you have something that in the manga at the very least felt a lot more bubbly and a lot more optimistic. Like that, I've had to redo the thumbnail because I thought that this whole series of events was going to go in a slightly different way, because the end of the Sky Egg stuff, or at least the immediate action side of things as far as the Sky is concerned, feels a little bit more bubbly and a little bit more like the ha-ha-ha witty banter stuff that you'd get at the end of a superhero adventure. Like, oh, the day is saved, some jokes and light banter. There's a bit in the episode where, or rather the chapter, where they're worried that something's happened to All Might. Like not All Might the hero, but the All Might that we know, because they've seen him knocking about and just being there after superhero All Might saved the day. And that when Superhero All Might came back to defeat the exploding bat monsters, I think Pop Step or someone's like, wait, what happened to the really thin guy? You know, the guy that looked like a scarecrow. Oh no, was the wind so strong it blew him away? Oh no, and just the gag of that I think is fun. I would have liked that side of things, because I'm not going to say this is a negative, but I do think it pivots into all the stuff with number 6 a bit too quickly. Like, I would have liked it if there was a little bit more of the sense of, oh well, this is the end of this little bit of the storyline, that's fun, there's probably going to be a bit where number 6 is, well, we didn't know it's number 6 at that point, you get the idea. Oh, there's going to be a bit where the Deliveryman's seething over it all and just, oh, I'm going to get you next time, All Might, and that crap, right? That's fine, some little witty banter, some fun stuff, and wait, what's that? Bang! And everything kicks off from there. I think that we needed just more of that sudden shift, whereas here it just feels like it's building into it in a way that I think undermines the first half. But even then, the big thing for that first half is the please save my little sister, which I think works very well. We're able to have just all the raw emotion of that first part with just the sheer twisted darkness of the second half, and I think it works well. And I suppose that's an argument why you wouldn't want the juxtaposition and the sudden sharp shift where Knuckle Duster comes into things, because then it would make the transition of the emotions feel a little bit weird from an audience point of view. But different strokes for different folks, that's all I can say on that. And then when we do get the confrontation with number 6, and we learn they are number 6, alright, there is a part of me that wishes that they had lent more on the creepiness and just the sheer uncanniness, just that weird number 6 plasticine looking avatar thing that we get in like the flashback sequence. Like, that's a representation, it is an abstract representation of how number 6 saw himself at that point. It's not literally how he saw him, how he was, it's just how he saw himself. He sees himself as an entity without a name, without an identity. And as such, he wants to take on the identity of O'Clock. Or Overclock, or whatever. Overclock. O'Clock is the name of the character. Sorry, got a little bit confused there for a second. He wants to be the new O'Clock, and he wants to be more than just the next one in line. Like, that you have different characters that have been Thor, or have been the Green Lantern. He doesn't want to just be the next Green Lantern. He wants to be the specific Green Lantern, or in this case, he wants to be the specific O'Clock. He wants to be the specific O'Clock, to the point where he gives himself that scar so that he can be more like his hero. And all of that stuff I think is presented well. I think they needed to play into the creepiness a lot more. I don't think it was quite as gross and nasty looking as it is in the manga. As I've said in the past, when I was reading this in the manga, there was a part of me that was thinking, well, you could do this in a way where it's almost like a don't hug me, I'm scared kind of thing, where you've got this kind of cutesy, kiddie animation thing, where you've got the imagined version of number 6, and then this horrifically nasty thing happens, and it would be more creepy. But regrettably, as I mentioned over the course of my reviews of this season, it doesn't feel like we have anything near the level of creativity that we had in the first season. But for what we get, it's still effective. It is just showing in a short And I suppose for some people that haven't read, well, for people that haven't read the manga in a short, shocking way, this is who this character is. They have no backstory. They have no past. There is no inciting incident that made them the way that they are. They are someone who was kidnapped and groomed and put into this position that they are in, and now all they want to be is to be O'Clock. And they do not see themselves as either a hero or a villain. They are motivated entirely by their own self-desire, and for them, at the time being at least, this is all a means to an end. They want all this power and none of the responsibility, and that is great. It creates a nice contrast between himself and villains from the main series and the movies. This is a character that is motivated entirely by self-interest and a desire for power. Great, good. And we get the part where Knuckle Dust is saying about how he has a successor when when I keep wanting to call number 6 O'Clock, and when I want to refer to O'Clock, I keep calling him Overclock because I'm thinking of Overhaul. Sorry, a lot of these names are too similar for my poor little brain. But in any case, you have the bit where number 6 is asking O'Clock. Well, I suppose he is O'Clock, so I can't say damn it. Number 6 is asking Knuckle Duster if he can be officially his successor. Officially, for the public, for the press, for everybody. They'll do a press conference, I suppose, and all that stuff to say, this is my successor, so he is the officially. But then we have Knuckle Duster saying that, no, you're not going to be my successor, I've already got one, and whilst he does like All Might more, that's good. He shouldn't be like me, he shouldn't aspire to be me, he needs to be his own guy, and he needs to be an actual hero, not me. Overclock, was whatever his name is, was not a hero. I am not a hero, I am not someone that you should aspire to be. Someone you should aspire to be is someone like All Might. And I like that. I love that aspect of it, and I do enjoy just seeing, getting an insight into how sorry, there's so many names, into how Knuckle Duster sees himself as a mentor figure to Crawler. Sorry, there's too many damn names in this kind of thing, it's confusing me. But in any case, I like getting that insight into how he sees himself as a mentor figure for Crawler. I wish that they had spent more time together as far as their relationship is concerned. Maybe we'll see more of that in the future, I don't know, because looking at the preview for next week, not only are we wrapping up, once again, we're wrapping up this story arc and the end of chapter of volume 7 in the manga, and we're jumping ahead to to further into volume 9 that I've not read yet, so we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. I'm not going to spoil what was said in the preview for next week for anyone that ignores it, but I was just watching it so they could at the very least figure out what to do for next week's thumbnail, but hey, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. As far as the negatives are concerned, I think that, just a minor negative to kick off with, the Japanese voice actor for Miyako in the Japanese version of it appears to be the same voice actor as when she's an adult, which feels odd to me. That is a problem that I've had. And especially it's weird because the voice actor for the younger version of the detective is a different actor. So it feels especially weird that you just wouldn't, for the sake of this, have two different ones, or just use one of the other voice actors you got on stock to do the younger version of Makoto, right? Just feels very odd that you're doing that, but hey, minor issue in the grand scheme of things. The issue that I have with this episode is that I think the visuals in this episode are a bit too murky for my liking. It's an overcast grey day in a largely grey environment. The lighting's kind of muted for most of it. The colours are very muted. So it feels as though a lot of information just gets lost in the background. I understand wanting a sense of realism here, that you're not going to have every episode being bright and sunny when maybe it shouldn't be at the time of year this is taking place at. But even still, it does make a lot of the stuff that's happening here feel kind of drab. And it doesn't feel like it's happening for the sake of thematic reasons. It just feels like it's there because, well, it's that time of year in Narahata and it can get a bit wet and windy, right, guys? And okay, and whilst I'm sure that's the case, it doesn't make for a visually interesting episode. It just makes a lot of the details just fade out. I don't think it was the case in the manga. Such it is, but they don't really go to that extent showing the lighting in the manga. But still, it does feel as though just certain aspects of it just feel kind of washed out and grey. Again, this might be different strokes, different folks thing. This might be me being very nitpicky, but it does feel as though a lot of the visuals are rather muted, which is a shame given just how spectacular some of the action in this episode is. And I think that muted colour palette also translated over to the imagined stuff, the flashbacks and such. Because whilst even when you had like the bit of an evil All Might going meh, 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 in his bit, that colours for that were muted as well, and the bit where you saw everyone cheering on All Might in that again, that stylised bit, again the colour seemed a little bit muted, and it feels odd to me. Of course, it feels like they muted those colours to make it fit in the colour palette for the wider episode, but yeah, whatever. With that said, let us get to the overview and say that I really did enjoy this episode. It was strong, it was good, it was fun. There are aspects of it that do shake it up for me. I do think there needed to be a bit more of a shock factor for when for when everything happened with Knuckle Duster, but beyond that, a solid episode. Next week is the final episode of this season, and, well, we'll see where we go with that. With all that said and done, let's get into Comment Corner. It's time for Comment Corner, comments from the previous video. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was fairly certain I replied to this one, but I didn't. So either YouTube is freaking out and now Big X1's going to get notified twice with 2 different replies, because I don't remember if I did reply to them or not, but nonetheless, we have a comment from Big X1 who says, I didn't like this one as much as you did. This, of course, referring to the previous episode, Balloon Soul, but it was better than expected. Thank you for your comment, and, well, I'm happy that you at least got something from it. Not really have much else to say there myself, but if you out there in Listerland want to leave a comment to be read out in a future video, let me know in the comment section down below. Now, we are, of course, reaching the tail end of this year's season for My Hero Academia Vigilantes. I know that I'm not going to ask for this now, but for those who are interested, start thinking about your thoughts for this season as a whole. I will be asking for them in the next video, so that when I do my season-long review, well, my season review rather than my season-long review, I should say, I'll see how people are feeling with this one, because I have thoughts about it. By now, I think you can kind of guess what direction I'm going in with this one, but nonetheless, let me know what you thought about this particular episode down in the comment section down below, and be sure to do the YouTube stuff that YouTube wants you to. Thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye!
Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, favourite, subscribe, click the bell, and do all the YouTubey stuff that YouTube wants you to do. Go on, it'll do me a power of good. Until next time, my friends, goodbye!